unnecessary, completely unnecessary as a point of order.
Good evening. This meeting of the Winthrop Town Council for June 17th, 2014 is now called to order. Council Clerk, would you call the roll?
Councilor Calla. Councilor Sanford.
Here.
Councilor Boncory. Councilor Barone.
Here.
Councilor Terry.
Here.
Councilor Boyajin. Councilor Mayo.
Here.
Vice President Del Vento.
Present.
President Gill.
Present.
Thank you.
Council Calhoun. Council Calhoun.
Well, Councilor Calhoun.
Present.
Well, please rise. Councilor Mayo, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the record reflect that?
Council Clerk Twist, would you call the roll? You already did call the roll. Sorry. A quorum is present. Do I have a motion to go into executive session? So moved by Councilor Sanford, seconded by Councilor Barone. And we'll have a roll call.
Councilor Calla.
Yes.
Councilor Sanford. Yes. Councilor Boncory. Councilor Barone.
Yes.
Councilor Terry.
Yes.
Councilor Boyajin. Councilor Mayo.
Here.
Vice President Del Vento. President Gill.
Yes.
Thank you.
Returning to the regular meeting, we were in executive session for the purpose of discussing some litigation issues. We have suspended the executive session in deference to the fact that we had people waiting and we had committed to coming back in at 7:30. So we're going to return to executive session at the other end of the meeting. I'd ask at this time if everyone would rise for a moment of silence. A long-standing public servant for the community passed away last night, Roland Fluitt, who had been on the board of the school committee, as well as had been at town meeting for many years and was very dedicated to the special education kids of the community. So if we could have a moment of silence for Roland, please. And in addition to Roland, last night we lost Councilor Boyajin's very, very close grandfather who lived with Rich, and Rich had him out all the time. And we'd like to have a moment of silence for Rich's grandfather, Joe Conley. Thank you. Oh, they read this, okay. The minutes from June 3rd is circulated. Could I have a motion?
Motion to accept.
Motion by Councilor Malone, seconded by Vice President Del Vento. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Gives me a great pleasure tonight to recognize patrol person Dawn Marie Armistead. Dawn was recognized by the Massachusetts Association of Women in Law Enforcement Excellent in Performance Award. Terry, could you just make a couple of comments?
Sure. Officer Armistead was, John, please come on, was nominated by Sergeant Kasafi for outstanding work with the school department and being our liaison to the school community. She's been invaluable in that position. It was the action of this council, as well as the town manager's support, that enacted her in that position mid-year, which is very unusual. But we felt it was necessary, and it's been a critical tool for us. She handles all our notifications for us when we're on critical scenes to the schools and coordinates those efforts. So she does a lot more than just the school resource officer. She handles all our juvenile stuff on the weekends and reports into the schools. So it's been a great gap closer for us, and it makes us more of a service-oriented police department, in which we appreciate your support and the manager's support in doing so. So I congratulate Dawn on a well-deserved honor.
I'd like to read the citation. The Winthrop Town Council, be it known that the Winthrop Town Council hereby offers its congratulations to Dawn Marie Armistead, the Massachusetts Association of Women in Law Enforcement Excellent in Performance Award. On behalf of the citizens of the town, we extend our most sincere congratulations to Dawn on her accomplishments and best wishes in her future endeavors. We're hearing wonderful, wonderful things out of you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Dawn, will you stay around back? We'll take a picture with her.
Yeah, you
Thank
get the family?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Hey, John. Put Dawn next to you. Family, come on in. Family. Terry. How are you? Who's Terry?
Terry, where's Terry? Terry. Terry.
Let's move this way a little. Look, there's 12 people down that end.
You know, maybe I should sit.
Come this way a little more.
Take one less out of the queue.
There we go.
Yeah, you get a wide angle.
No film.
It's the old days, film. 1 hour service on the format.
One more? Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, boys and girls. Thank you.
Boy, you'll make me see it.
My next presentation, I'm going to start with an apology that I did not have Bob Wynn and his committee make their report at the budget meeting before we voted the budget, because we all had it, but it was a tremendous report, and we've asked Bob and his committee to come back and present it to the public. Bob, you want to talk to that? Sure.
Thank you, Peter. Bob Driscoll and Barbara Flavin are here tonight, as well as our members on the town council. And I'd just like to say that what we're going to do is we're just going to go to the comments and recommendations section. The budget was handled the last time. Nick made the motion with our recommendation, so we're all set with that. But in addition to that portion, we also had a couple of comments and recommendations we wanted to pass on to the council for your consideration, and just to let you know what came up during our discussions with the town departments and the town manager during the budget process. First, I guess, is that part of the budget was to add a newly restructured inspectional services department. It's going to have a commissioner. We'll have the health inspector move over to this new department. And that department will be responsible for enforcing all of the town and the state codes regarding our building, housing, health, sanitation, and safety. And the idea here is that with this new focus, the intent will be to improve the quality of life for the citizens of Winthrop, which I think is really great. And it may have the added bonus, not immediately but down the road, of between fees and fines of bringing in enough revenue to cover the cost of the department. So that's very good too. So we endorse that, and we appreciate that Jim has put this together. It's another example of some of the thinking that's been going on in town government. A year ago, the human resource position was created, and that's great, and that can go a long way with employee-related problems and maybe prevent some things that create lawsuits. So it's another good step in the right direction, in our opinion. One of the other comments we had was on the water and sewer retained earnings. We had done a report at the request of the town council back, I guess it was early this year. And in that, we kind of agreed that the retained earnings in the water and sewer enterprise fund were within reason based on the study that we did. We looked at 162 communities, we looked at 30 MWRA communities, and we found that that was the amount of money in those retained earnings, which is really the effect of the difference between revenues and expenses at the end of the fiscal year. If it's positive, you have positive retained earnings. If it's negative, you're in the hole. So we think that Winthrop is within reason based on our study. But what we found a little disconcerting is how we got there. And it had to do with what happened at the end of 2012 and the first half of 2013. So we suggested in the report that a policy be established that would identify the amount of the retained earnings, how they would be spent, and what would be done if those retained earnings got higher than expected. For example, could go back to lowering the rates. So we would like the council to pursue that recommendation of the commission to look at establishing a policy for the retained earnings in the water and sewer enterprise funds. We had a couple of comments about the school and school budgeting process. One of them is that we wholeheartedly support the net school spending agreement that's being worked on between the town manager and the CFO and the school superintendent. We think that's a great idea. It identifies the funding that the town spends on school-related items which are not in the school budget. It helps us to adhere to the state's net school spending requirements. It's a good idea, and we suggest that that go forward, and I know it is. I'm not sure, maybe it's already done, but it's a good idea. The other issue has to do with the school budgeting process. You know, as we all know, the school is the largest budget in the town, combined with some of the outside spending, like health insurance, pensions, and so forth. It probably amounts to 50% of the general fund budget. It's a significant number. It's unique, though, that unlike other town departments, it does not report through the town manager. The budget comes through the school committee. They analyze it, they vote, and they submit it to the town manager, but it comes from the school committee. Then its appropriation comes from the town council. So it's unique in some instances, and it is funded like all the other budgets through council vote. This year, the school budget that was submitted was $1,170,000 in round numbers, more than the existing school budget. Now that's a lot, but we don't usually fund the budget any given year by more than $1 million, $2 million over prior years. We just can't afford it because the total revenues for this year, total increase in revenues, was $1,120,000. So you have a situation where the requested budget is more than the available revenues for the entire town. So we think that there needs to be more communication during the budget process between the school committee or the school committee budget subcommittee and the town manager and the CFO, so that there's awareness of our revenues and what may or may not be available for the school department. It's important for the school department to do the analysis it does. It talks to the administrators, it talks to the principals, it talks to the teachers. It finds out what needs to be done to improve the quality of education for the town, and that's critical for the school committee. And it helps to build the budget. But on the other side of the coin, there needs to be some understanding of the financial realities that the town faces, which of course affects the school budget. And what we don't want to see is this appearance of us against them, because the recommendation by the town manager and the appropriation by the town council is going to be this year somewhat less than the submitted budget. So I think that what we're really coming down to is it's a communication issue, and we'd like to somehow recommend that during the process, not at the end, but during the process, there's more communication between the school committee and the town on their budget. And I think if the town, if the school committee really believes that they need a significant amount of money that's not available through the town's resources, that's the time they initiate discussions with the town council about the possibility of an override. I mean, that's the only other way that you can get a large amount of new revenue for specific purposes. And that's not a bad thing if it's necessary. And that's when you can then go to the voters and say, here's why we need it, it's necessary, please support us. So I think that's the final option, but that also requires a lot of communication back and forth. And just finally, I guess the last thing is our library. We have a new director. He's doing a great job. He requested an increase in his budget. It's not a big number per se, but it was not something that could be granted this year. And there's some other things that are being done for the library. But what we'd like to do is, looking at the fiscal 16, to ask the town manager and Tim Gordon, the CFO, and the library directors to work together to see if some of his requests for an increase in his budget can be put together for a year from now. So those are basically our comments, and again, we'd just like to thank all of the town managers, the town manager and Tim Gordon, the CFO, for their help throughout the process. They made it easy, and we appreciate that. So thank you very much, appreciate the time.
Especially thank you and your committee, your commission, your finance, Citizen Finance Commission, with the town councils serving on it as well, for the diligent efforts that you put in and the way you scrub that budget and make sure it's right and justifiable. And now it's up to the town manager to manage it, as he has done very well in the last couple of years. Jim?
I want to thank Bob too. He's, quietly one of the biggest assets this town has. He does a great job. He's done it for many years, and I really appreciate what he does. I did want to say one thing about the last section on the library.
Yeah.
And maybe more towards the town manager. And the library isn't open any mornings during the summer for the children's library. The regular library is open at 10, I think, on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but the children's library doesn't open before noon. Right now in this town, we have the biggest population of ELA students and more lower income students coming in. And these kids would benefit greatly from the to have some availability for summer morning hours at the library. I've talked to Peter also, and I know he did have a budget increase that we really weren't able to fulfill or didn't at this time. But we have great summer programs that are going on in our schools. And now with the transition, none of these libraries are available during the summer in the schools. And I think it would be such a great opportunity for these kids, especially the ELA kids and the lower income kids, that they could really use maybe a book before they go to the beach or get to the library early in the morning. To not have the children's library open any mornings during the summer is terrible, I think. And I would like to see if we as a council or as a town could do something to try to alleviate this situation, even if it's 1 or 2 days during the week during the summer, that we could have the children's library open earlier than noon. I think would be a huge benefit. And I know his budget's very tight, and it's a relatively small budget when you're looking at the schools and at the police and at the fire and public safety, but it's still very important. And I kind of bang myself on the head a little bit for not maybe speaking more earlier about this, but I just really think it's important that, especially in the transition, we're going through such a huge transition in the schools. To have the kids to have the availability to get to the library earlier during the summer, I think would be a great thing. So anything you could do for that, Jim, I would be on board 100% and would greatly appreciate it.
I'll take a look. Yes, Councilman.
In light of that, I think it opens up the opportunity again to discuss public parking lots, because that would bring you $30,000. It wouldn't affect the budget, and it's an asset we have in the town that we should be using. So whether you want to use the money for library, which I think is great, or programming at the senior center, that also goes to the same thing for the parking stickers. And these are why I bring these things up, and I hope that there'll be some thought about that, because we just can't always spend. We have to think about generating the revenue to offset it. And I think they wanted 50 grand, was it, over there? 60?
Yeah.
60. So I bet we can get 30 grand that's sitting out there. I know it's tough, but it's tough all around. Just a thought, I agree with you.
Those issues, those parking issues are in the hands of the DPW committee. We're waiting for a report back. So if you can pull something together, we'd appreciate it.
Changes.
Thank you again, Bob. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Barbara and Bob. Thank you. Bob and Barbara.
3 Bs.
Yeah. You guys don't have to stay, but you're welcome to stay if you want to. Councilor Lettieri wants to know if that applies to him as well. The National Grid has made a request for two poll petitions. Mike Menendez, is Mike here? Didn't see it earlier. Oh, okay, Mike.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
We've petitioned for a couple of poles so that we can provide an overhead feed into the underground for our transformers there right now. the way they're fed is through the underground, through sort of obsolete kind of cutout system. And then this way, the overhead provides better, more safer type of power for them at 2 locations.
So those 2 locations are now both underground, correct?
That transformer, the transformers are fed underground through that system that's there right now. But we have the ability by installing the pole, we can run the conduit and the power right into the manholes. And we can eliminate some of the transformer cutouts that are there now. They're very old.
So does that add to overhead wiring?
No, actually, it feeds off of the overhead wires.
Okay.
It uses that power.
Mr. Kelly, you had a couple of concerns.
I did, I actually, I believe it was you responded via email.
Peter Ing did, yes, he
Yeah.
did.
My concerns were, the initial drawings were putting the conduit in the roadway and over some storm drain as well as a portion of water main up in the Crest Ave area. They've responded that they will keep their conduit exclusively on the sidewalk, and any sidewalk that gets affected will be fully restored. I was happy with that. My one question over at Brothers Restaurant at the corner of Shirley Street and Revere. I had hoped that there was some way to eliminate that second pole. It doesn't sound like there was. It's just you're gonna have a pole on each side of that apron, that driveway apron to Brothers Restaurant. You're gonna have poles within probably 50 feet of each other.
Right, that's correct. Well, it just reduces the distance in conduit from the pole to the manhole, but they're gonna be taking out the steel stub as well.
They'll take out the steel, but I mean, is there an option potentially to continue that conduit further to the next pole instead of erecting another pole?
I could double check on that, why they want that pole, but normally it's just to reduce that great distance
Right.
from the pole in.
Something that we're gonna be looking at just forever. We're trying to eliminate poles in town, double poles. If there's any way that can be conduit to the next pole, I think I speak on behalf of the town that we don't want to see another pole.
I'll go back with that.
Okay.
So Steve, would you be comfortable if that were specified that the construction will be restricted to within the sidewalks and the sidewalks will be restored?
Yes.
Okay. So we had a public hearing for the pole petition in Revere Street and Crest Ave. Is there any?
Just on the Crest Ave, one in particular, how are you gonna do the construction, what time of day this construction is gonna be done? We have a lot of sand trucks coming in. If they're gonna obstruct the lane on Crest Ave, that creates a problem for the Monday through Friday sand escorts. If they're gonna be more on Revere Street, we probably can work with them, but it's gonna restrict the lane of traffic. So, the morning commuters, not gonna, they're gonna want my hand.
Okay, your concern is the time, yeah.
So if it have to be done on weekends or nights, or if we can at least coordinate with us to make sure that there's no other problems in that area prior to doing it.
Okay.
Yes.
I think the
Councilor
woman
Carroll.
that was here at our last meeting said she thought that they might be able to do it on weekends, did she?
She did,
She was
but
gonna
then-
check
and then
into
we had to actually shut down some of the workers from Crest Ave because they came to do the job, and so
I remember hearing about that, yeah.
lost in translation. We can work it out with the contractors now.
Is there any further comment? If not, I'm going to close both of those hearings for the poll petition. Now, when we come to new business, we'll do the motions. And what we'll do in those motions, just if you're not here, is that we will crank in that there'll be an agreeable time frame for the Crest Ave, and that we'll do, the work will be on the sidewalks, and sidewalks will be restored.
Correct.
Steve?
Just one last comment. Are we gonna wait to just get a response on whether or not they don't need to have that second pole corrected before we move to allow the work to happen? So is there one more response from?
If we make the motion contingent upon a satisfactory response? Does that work?
Yes. Would that be for one location or two?
That's just the location. Well, you're not looking for another pole up on Revere and Crest.
No.
The only pole that you're speaking of is the one at Shirley and Revere. I know you were eliminating that small scale pole, which is just for support pole. But if there's any way that they don't have to erect that second pole, I think it's really gonna crowd that corner. It's gonna be an eyesore. and we're gonna have it forever.
I'll go back with that in the morning.
If it has to be, it's understandable, but if you can do due diligence to not have it, would be preferred. Thank you.
Is there any further comment or question on the
I
polls?
have one more question.
Yes,
Wait
Council.
for a second. Mr. Director, to Steve. Stephen, would that have anything to do with if we do end up getting the Winthrop corridor work that's being done? I mean, would that pole be in the way, or will there be an issue with that? That was there?
That project's not speaking of, reshaping that corner. It wouldn't be in the way of a handicap ramp or anything like that. It's just more so kind of crowding the parking lot to the rear of the Old Brothers Restaurant. There's gonna be a pole on both sides of that apron. It's just gonna, certainly not gonna be aesthetically
Negative
pleasing.
impact for them.
Are there any further questions from the council or from the public? If not, we'll close the public hearing on both poll petitions. Moving on to public comment. Yes, Ms. Sullivan. Name and precinct, please.
Thank you, John Sullivan, Precinct 5. I'm here tonight as the part of the school committee and the Buildings and Grounds chairperson of the subcommittee of the school committee. Tonight, before you, you have a vote to allocate funds, which would go towards a grant, which would help to renovate Miller Field. And I hope that you'll support this. But I want to also bring to your attention tonight that, and ask for additional funds above that, for a plan that was brought to my attention by Paul O'Donnell from the DPW. This is a plan that would help aerate and germinate, and Paul O'Donnell's here to answer the technical questions that I can't, to help the condition of the field to be ready for fall sports. The plan costs roughly between $8,000 and $8,200. And as you know, lacrosse, soccer, football, and cheerleading occur on this field. Right now, I am told the soil is so compact that it will not allow new seed to grow properly. The soil on the field is as hard as concrete. I'm concerned not only about the parents of the field, but also the risk of injury, foot and ankle injury to the student athletes in the fall if it's not taken care of properly. The proposal was brought to my attention, like I said, by Mr. O'Donnell, and could start right away, which they would need, I think, 8 weeks for this process to have a positive effect on the field. So I'm here tonight to ask you to please also consider either tonight or at your next meeting allocating another $8,000 roughly to this plan, which I have a copy of. I'm happy to give it to you or email it to you all tomorrow.
That'd be great. You could email to the town council. Great.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Mr. McKenna.
Just take an Elliot. Thank you.
Further public comment. Ms. Engman.
Thank you. Heather Engman, Precinct 4. I'm here this evening as an individual and not as a member of any board or organization. And I'm here to voice my concerns about the casino mitigation agreement. I know the negotiations and the process has been particularly difficult, and I very much appreciate all of the long hours and hard work that all of the town councilors and the town manager have devoted to getting the best possible outcome for the town. I know this has been really difficult. Nonetheless, I'm deeply concerned about the adequacy, the legal adequacy of the Mohegan Sun agreement and the multiple provisions that will make it difficult and impossible for Winthrop to advocate for itself and defend itself should Mohegan Sun be awarded the license. One of these provisions states that the town acknowledges and agrees that the payments of $2 million a year adequately mitigate all impacts caused by the casino in the town. The problem is that $2 million might not be enough to adequately mitigate all of the impacts, particularly where the annual payment is not tied to inflation. Moreover, after acknowledging in writing that $2 million is enough, the town is going to be hard pressed to convince the Community Mitigation Fund or the Gaming Commission that it needs more money. So I think that's very problematic. The agreement also requires Winthrop to cooperate with essentially everything that Mohegan Sun wants to do now and in the future. The agreement requires the town to send a letter to the Gaming Commission supporting the development, which I think is contrary to a lot of what's happened in town, in what I've seen happen anyways. And Almost more troubling, the agreement states that the town shall make good faith efforts to support the developer's ancillary needs related to the project, including without limitation ensuring cooperation with local hotels, employee parking, and construction laydown space. This statement is so unbelievably broad and ambiguous, I have virtually no idea what it means, and I'm afraid that it's going to allow Mohegan Sun to basically do whatever it wants with our town, and the town is not going to be able to say anything in response. Even more concerning is the fact that many of the town councilors have already stated that the folks from Mohegan Sun are not people that Winthrop can trust. Mohegan Sun has disrespected, insulted, and taken advantage of Winthrop from the get-go on this process. Mohegan Sun's disregard for the community becomes even more problematic in the face of this particular agreement, because Winthrop will now be in a position where it has to choose between going along with whatever Mohegan Sun says without argument or risk breaching the agreement. The gag order provisions of this agreement will undoubtedly have a chilling effect on the ability of town officials and residents to speak candidly and to advocate for the best future of Winthrop. And I believe this will be very damaging to the community over the long term should Mohegan Sun get this license. Again, I want to acknowledge what a difficult and trying process this has been, but it's important to get on the record what a bad deal this is for the town.
Thank you, Heather. Public comment. Mr. Rivera,
If I may,
your name and precinct,
sure.
sir.
Another resident asked me to read something she couldn't stay, is that
Okay,
right?
sure.
And I also have my time.
Yep.
This is from Kent Elliott, Reed Street. I can't stay, but I asked John to read my statement. I read a few weeks ago in the transcript that the town had signed a mitigation agreement with Mohegan Sun. When I read it, I thought, well, I guess everyone has a price, and I guess the number that makes Don Draper smile is $2 million. What I didn't realize at the time is in signing this agreement, you agreed to never speak negatively about casinos or the process. You signed away our voice. $2 million may beautify a lot of roads and parks, but it is a small amount for the cost of a soul. I was starting to have some faith in the council, but in the end, it's all about the bed Newtons, as they say. I'll keep this brief. I'm horrified. You are taking hush money from the mob. It's sad because most of you will not be around in 50 years to deal with the mess you've created. The good news is the voters will have a say in November, and all this corruption will come to an end. At least my former and favorite mayor, Joe Curtatone of Somerville, had the spine to cross out the gag order on his mitigation agreement. Peace and good luck.
Thank you.
And I'm John Ribeiro from Precinct 1. And I just have a question. I know you're not in the habit of answering questions. But does this agreement, in fact, prevent the town of Winthrop, the town council, from ever speaking negatively and for, in fact, and require you to promote the development of the casino at Suffolk Downs?
That's a legal question. I don't have the answer to it.
Okay.
It does not prohibit any town official as an individual
But
from
as-
doing whatever he wants.
So,
But at the other part, I don't have an answer
can I ask the town manager, since he signed the agreement?
I'm not responding to your questions
Yeah,
tonight.
that's fine.
No, I'll have our attorneys respond if you want to put your questions in writing.
I will put my questions in writing. As I read it, and as others have stated, the agreement does in fact gag the town.
No, it
and
does not.
prevent
It does not, and we will respond to that question, okay? It does not do that. And I will have our attorneys respond to your question. Put your question in writing, we'll have our
Okay.
attorneys respond.
I'll do that, and I'll be back in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Matt?
Matt Rano, Precinct 2. I'm also here to talk about the surrounding community agreement. I'm not really happy with it. I know it could have been much, much worse. And I think there's some members of the town council that were willing to accept a much worse deal, so I appreciate those that had the courage to push this forward to the point we arrived at. That being said, I think we could have done much, much better. One issue was having our payment tied to inflation or gaming revenues. I was told that was never on the table. Yet out of the 11 surrounding community agreements, 4 communities negotiated for that provision and they got it. We all know that $2 million today is not the same as $2 million 15 years from now. And that's a point I wish the town had been a little bit firmer on and has not conceded on. One other point that is unique to our agreement is that Winthrop is the only town that has to send a letter to the Mass Gaming commission with a statement of support. And I find that particularly, that's true. That is absolutely true. There's members of the council shaking their head.
We won't respond.
Okay,
You're
thank you.
okay to make a comment?
I'm willing to bet that in this room, there's maybe 3 or 4 people that have read all 11 of the agreements, and I happen to be one of them, and that is true. We are the only town that's required to send that letter. I'm curious if the letter has been sent. I know there's a 30-day timeline. If it has not been sent, I'd like to request that the council be involved in the drafting and review of the letter before it goes to the Mass Gaming Commission. And at a minimum, I believe that the letter should include the following statement at the end. Let me just find it. This letter of support has been drafted by the town manager as required by the surrounding community agreement. This letter does not represent the opinions of the town council, local businesses, or residents of Winthrop who have expressed ongoing concern in opposition to the proposed Mohegan Sun Casino. I think it's only fair that that be in the letter, and I think not including that would be an affront to all the people that have come and have shown up at the public hearing to speak out against the casino.
Thank you. Can you leave a copy of that for
Yep.
the record?
That's it.
Anyone else? Lisa?
Thank you, Council President Lisa Alberghini, Precinct 6. I'm also here to express my extreme displeasure with the so-called mitigation agreement. I'm actually stunned by it. Before doing that, though, I wanted to ask 2 questions of the council. The first is, Councilor Boncory, you stated in an earlier meeting when several folks asked to have the town boards be, to have the town council seek input from town boards about the impacts of the casino. And I think that you said that it wasn't necessary to get the input of our boards and others because you had held 6 months or so worth of meetings some time ago to seek resident input, and that was sufficient information that was gathered to understand the impacts of the casino. I think that was right. That was at a prior council meeting when there was a conversation about that. My question is, was that input that the town apparently so painstakingly sought, was that input ever sent to the Mass Gaming Commission?
I can answer that question. All of that information was used in the negotiation process.
I understand that was with Mohegan Sun. Asking, was that information and input from the residents ever given to the Mass Gaming Commission? They're the ones responsible for making the siting decision. And there are 2 other questions along the same lines. The second one is, I wonder if the video that was of the April 1st Town Council meeting that was held specifically, expressly for the purpose of seeking the input of residents, if that was passed on to the Mass Gaming Commission by the council. I know that others individually did, but by the council as a council. And the third question is, if the input that has been received by residents at your council meetings for this purpose has been passed on to the Mass Gaming Commission.
I don't have an answer to that question. I cannot answer that. I don't know.
It would be great. I can also put this, I have put this question in writing before, and I think I've gotten a response, but I will do that again so we can hear when all of the information that Councilor Boncory said was collected, when that went to the Mass Gaming Commission to provide the feedback of the town. I think that if it hadn't been submitted to the Mass Gaming Commission, then I think many of us feel as though the so-called process for resident input has not been meaningful. Because if it's not passed on to the one body that has the ability to cite the casino, then it was not a meaningful exercise. And I think many of us are very frustrated by that. So it would be great if we get the dates. I'd ask before for the dates and evidence of when that feedback that you've collected has gone to the Mass Gaming Commission. Otherwise I think many of us feel as though it's been a really futile process, and we need to know if the effort that everyone's putting in is getting, is taken to the bodies that it's been meant for. The second question.
Can you comment on that? Yeah, if you'd like to.
Just on the comment that I had made, the comment I made was we had already had many committee meetings. Those committee meetings, each of the departments, the fire, the police, the DPW, Board of Health, all met with that casino committee. I wasn't on that committee, but I know they met with that committee. That committee had to take minutes in each of those meetings. Those minutes would have addressed the issues that were brought up and who spoke. And they should be public record, that if you could get or anyone else could get. Whether, I don't know if we as a whole or if our town manager has submitted them to the Gaming Commission,
Yeah,
but
that's
they
the
would
question.
be in the minutes of
Sure,
those
and I have
committee
asked for
meetings.
copies of those minutes before and not gotten them, but the question was, did the town council pass on the input from the residents that was collected for the express purpose of understanding the impact? Did they pass that on to the Mass Gaming Commission, the body that makes the citing decision? I guess the second question, because I don't want to take up all my time on that, the second question is whether or not the council, who among the council has read, partly following up on Matt's comment, read the agreement. I have also read all 11 agreements. It is as he stated. And, I have copies of all of the agreements here if anyone else wants to see them. And I just am hoping that the council members have read not only Winthrop's, because you can't know what you negotiate unless you've also read what others have gotten in their agreements. And there are absolutely, there are job training kinds of mitigations and others. There are the provisions that Matt pointed to. And it seems as though the Winthrop agreement is particularly inadequate in a number of ways. On the agreement itself, several of us couldn't quite talk about this for a few days after reading it because we were so upset. We think the agreement is that egregious, and it seems as all the prior speakers I think have said, quite beyond belief that the council would sign an agreement saying that you are required to support the casino, especially in light of never having, I think, or not having forwarded the appropriate feedback to the Mass Gaming Commission. And I guess I would wonder what the basis of your support in the agreement is. Did you poll Winthrop residents? Since the council has made a very large deal, some members of the council at times, for not taking a position on the casino because there hadn't been a vote, despite the fact that I know there was an opportunity to take a vote earlier on that the council rejected. But, so you've always said, we can't say to the Gaming Commission how Winthrop feels because there's not been a vote. Now you have said how Winthrop feels. And so I'm wondering, is there a poll or a vote that I somehow missed? Did you poll Winthrop residents? And that was the basis on which you agreed to the casino in this document? Number one, or did the town council take a vote? Was there a vote among the town council to sign the agreement? Was that the basis for your supporting the casino now? Was there some turnaround we don't know about? Did you consult with the town boards? Or the boards you appoint to provide the professionalism and their expertise? Was that the basis of you now supporting the casino? There had to be some basis on which you decided to support the casino. And I think it's important that you just let us know, as residents, what is the basis on which you've now decided, without a vote of the residents, without a vote of the council, without consulting your boards, the basis on which you did decide to now support the casino. And lastly, I'll just say, I have read all the agreements. I was struck by a few things. Chelsea, as we know, one of our favorite agreements to compare, got $2.5 million. They also got $100,000 in job placement funds. And one of the things that I find most kind of interesting and entertaining is when you look at the map on the back of the agreement, it shows this creek, right, that separates Chelsea from all of Chelsea from the casino. And whereas Winthrop is much closer, got less money. And a couple of the other agreements also speak to specific traffic impacts. Winthrop is much more affected by traffic than all, we would argue, of the other surrounding communities. There's no specific mention of traffic. What our agreement says, and some of the others do as well, but our agreement says we'll do what the others, we agree with what you've said to the other surrounding communities. So, we feel like it's inadequate. We feel like the process has been flawed, and if not fatally flawed. And I think at this point, we're just I'm most interested in learning whether or not any of the feedback from the Winthrop residents actually made it to the Gaming Commission. Not going to get something in negotiations. That's irrelevant to what the Gaming Commission does and hears and decides. So those are my comments. I understand, Council President, that you also have two letters that have been asked to be read into the record.
Councilman?
Yeah, I'll agree with you on some of this stuff. And then there's other areas. One, the first part and the most important part is I don't think anything that your entire group did over the last 2 years was in vain. When you, in all honesty, when you came 2 years ago and requested a vote, there wasn't even a second.
Sorry, Councilman, but it was 4 years ago.
We to be recognized right now. You've had the floor. Someone else has the floor. One conversation at a time.
I can't speak to 4 years ago. I don't go back that far. 2 years ago, when I brought up the motion for it, it didn't go forward. And yet by the time we got down to the actual work on it, I think the effort that a group of people put through, yourselves included, helped change the thought and help bring to the, bring to the forefront what it was. And I think because of that, okay, we didn't negotiate early. I think if the council had thought that there was tremendous support, maybe we would have gone and negotiated early. And we didn't. We put out, we fought the best fight we could, and in a way, some of this agreement wasn't an agreement, it was a deal, in a sense, and mitigation. And we went as far as we could. We took all the things that you wanted to say. MAPC put it in their proposal, and it went, and I know, it's a fine point, it went to Mohegan to negotiate. But that was our job, okay? Our job was to negotiate. And we took the feedback that we got. That changed a lot of people's opinion of how we should approach it. I think if you hadn't said that and you hadn't made that point, we may not have taken as hard an aggressive approach to it. And it may not, be the end, but one of the things we did get was we did get more money in the long run than all the other communities, with the exception of Chelsea, who really didn't sign an agreement.
Okay, I would like not to discuss the particulars of this agreement and how it was arrived at. I would like to say that I sat in on every single minute, and I will say that when this process started, I, as your council president, said, and I know you don't like to hear me say it, we have no decision, no opportunity to decide whether or not that casino is coming. But our obligation to you as citizens is, if it comes, we need to get the best package we can. And I believe with all my heart that we got the best package that we could. We did. We worked diligently. It was not easy. It wasn't a gimme. And I think we did. I can sit here and I can put my head on the pillow and say that we did the absolute best job that we could. Did we please everybody? No. Am I pleased with all of it? No. Is Mr. McKenna pleased with all of it? No. But we had an obligation to you people and to ourselves, and I feel very, very confident that we did the best we could.
Council President?
Any other comment? Yes, Council.
And I just wanted to just address, Lisa, your concerns about the gaming commission, knowing how we felt. There were several of us from the council, and there were, I'm sure, your entire group and a lot of other Winthrop residents that went to South Boston, to the convention center, and spoke directly to the commission. So I do feel as though they did hear Winthrop, they did hear what we had to say. The things that were said and read in our public meeting were also read and said directly to the commission. So I don't think that they absolutely didn't hear us. I think they did hear us. And again, I don't know if there's going to make any decision as to whether or not where they're going to vote, to allow the casino to take place, but it may. And I think everybody was very eloquent, they were very passionate, and we all feel strongly about this town. But we were in a position where this was sort of like put in front of us and we didn't have any choice. So, I just want you to know that they did have an opportunity to hear from us.
Any other public council?
Wilson Ray.
Pardon me?
Wilson Ray, Precinct 2. I just have a question. Now that the agreement is signed, is this a done deal? We have no more chances of doing amendments or...
We are bound by the agreement unless it would be mutually... Oh, go ahead.
There's an opportunity for us in the event that there is something that gets learned in the future with regard to unforeseen mitigation issues, that we can petition directly to the Gaming Commission for a pot of funds, $6.5 million in available funds to address things that were not reasonably foreseen within the agreement that we've engaged.
But according to the statement that Heather was making, they brought the statement, it's pretty much saying we are okay with it and we cannot say anything. It sounds to me, and I'm not an attorney, it sounds to me that once we sign that, that's it. We cannot get any more. We cannot do anything else.
Okay, thank you. Any other comment? Anybody who hasn't been heard from?
Council President.
Yes, Paul?
I just wanted to make one comment. I think once, correct me if I'm mistaken, but once all this is executed, the executive session minutes will become public
Yeah.
domain. So you can see the thought processes, you could see the thoughtful discussion, the caring of every individual on this board. To suggest otherwise, I think is not fair.
Any further public comment? John?
John O'Carroll, Precinct 1. Just for point of information, as most folks know, we're leading an effort to repeal the casino law. And we just learned yesterday that we compiled enough signatures, more than double the number of signatures that are necessary to take it to the next step. We've collected 26,000 signatures that need to be certified. We need 11,500. They're in the process of being certified, and they'll go to the Secretary of State's office. We are awaiting a ruling from the Supreme Judicial Court in Massachusetts to decide whether it will be on the ballot, but we also planning that if the SJC does not approve our question, then we will be filing again immediately, because the SJC will, in fact, give us instructions on how to write that question properly if necessary. So the people certainly haven't given up on this, and there will be an opportunity, if not this November, then soon for us to vote on it.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Matt?
Council President, I'm just going to push my luck and it's a yes or no question. Has the letter that's required by the surrounding community been sent to the Mass Gaming Commission?
I don't know. Any further public comment? Lisa?
Just that the folks who had written letters had asked that.
Yeah, I'm going to read them. I'm going to read them under communication, but if there's no objection from the council, I'll read them under public comment. Okay? Basically, I had a letter from Astrid Weems, which basically said, not to repeat, basically said what was discussed here tonight, but I'll quote a bit of it. It was with great disappointment that I read Winthrop's recent agreement with Mohegan Sun regarding the impact on the Suffolk County's casino. And she said, and she went on to say just about what everybody said here tonight. And she sincerely hopes for all of us that the mass gaming law will be repealed by voters in November, so that we as a community and as individuals will never have to deal with the negative impacts of the casino project. This wholly inappropriate mitigation agreement will therefore become obsolete. Anita Pacey sent a very similar letter, but she said that the town council had completely ignored the opinions of the people and rolled over whatever right that they had, and that she felt that there was a lack of due diligence on the part of those who made the agreement. However, she also says that through the efforts being put forward to repeal the petition, to repeal the casino law, we will ultimately win this fight, and the whole notion of casinos anywhere in Massachusetts will die. So basically, those are some resolutions. If there is no further comment?
Yes. I believe it's an answer to your question. If they heard what the citizens of Winthrop were saying, we taped that meeting that we had in the auditorium across the street, and where Mohegan Sun was there, and all of the citizens spoke. And we had made a motion on this council to send that tape.
We did send it
to the Gaming Commission. So the Gaming Commission got the direct comments via that tape of every single one of his comments that were made that day.
Yeah, that's
so
it.
that did happen by the council by motion that I remember making.
Right. Any further public comment? Yes.
Someone was here about a different issue.
That's right. If it's still public comment, sure.
We were going to wait until the casino.
Okay, that was nice of you to let them get through there. Casino people are dismissed unless you want to stay. You're welcome to stay, but you don't have to. Ms. Cook?
You have on your agenda under old business the issue of houseboats, and is this an appropriate time?
We're actually not going to jump ahead on the houseboats. Our only item, our only discussion of that is that it's in the hands of the planning board right now, and that we are pursuing whatever alternate, whatever. Mr. McKenna, maybe you can comment.
We're pursuing some legal remedies at this point with respect to both use of as B&Bs, enforcement of the cease and desist order that's existing, and the whole question of houseboats and whether they're under our zoning. And we've instructed our council to move forward with seeking legal remedy for the situation.
Thank you for that information. I'd like to submit through the President a letter from me to you all.
Okay.
There's enough copies, I'm not sure. I'll make sure you don't have anything else.
If you want, you can email it. And then that's proof
And I
that
can
we have
email
it.
it, people can read it. Oh, that was my copy, and I went to get, sorry.
Okay.
Pass those out.
Is that really something?
We know you have a lot before you, and we just want to say, I want to say a couple of things.
Thank you.
This letter summarizes some work I did looking at the internet on how houseboats have winded their way through communities around the country. Since last September, when DEP allowed an expansion at the Atlantis Marina of the docks, purportedly for the houseboats in Charlestown to come over without anyone knowing about it and any public process. We have been to every board relevant many times. And now, yes, I appreciate you're sending it to the planning board. But I think it's important for the council to be thinking about this because I'm certain it will come back to you. This is an issue that begins with the Atlantis Marina. The houseboats are not legal at the Atlantis Marina, according to the permits granted. Your town council has said that for months, written it, and yet no one has done anything. The bed and breakfasts are not legal under town zoning. They're being operated in the Atlantis Marina. Your town council has said that, yet they operate every weekend. People are coming and going. We have lived with human excrement in the water at the Atlantis Marina at the Pleasant Park Yacht Club. We have seen the inspector come and give cease and desist orders on the bed and breakfast, and they make no difference at all. We've seen the inspector come and find a toilet emptying into the water, and the person in that houseboat saying, my toilet's been broken for months. What we see in the literature, where communities like Winthrop, that benefit from their waterfront, Seattle, Portland, all along New Jersey, you name it, lake communities, Wisconsin, they're all over the country, communities just like this one. But one of the most important economic assets we have is the waterfront and the water activities. Here, the reason people made a big investment in the Atlantis Marina, and I did, is because the water is very attractive. It compensates for the airport and the sewage treatment plant that are certainly negative adjustments. But the water compensates for it. It's very important, and the town does a lot to protect that. Houseboats around the country present an issue. The bottom line is, the issue is they're almost impossible to regulate. We try to have regulation, but enforcement, as we see, just as in Winthrop, everywhere else, it's nearly impossible. And a number of communities have successfully moved to restrict or prohibit entirely houseboats. The planning board is taking up this issue in some way. We asked for action because there's no question that the houseboats at the Atlantis Marina are not allowed under Winthrop zoning, under the permit that was granted for the development there. But, the board sent us back to you all for enforcement. So we're here to say that issue, they've said, is not their issue, and enforcement has to happen by the town and the town council. What I also found out is there are a number of studies that have been done in which the issue of sewerage coming from the boats and the lack of ability to enforce problems with that is rampant. But the gray water issue is also important. And a study in Canada has done a scientific analysis and come up with a conclusion that the gray water, which seems to be allowed, and at least at the Atlantis Marina, boats there discharge gray water for as much as 4 or 5 hours a day into the water there. We don't know what the composition is. We're told it has something in one of the boats to do with the heating system. We don't know what the temperature of the water is. We don't know what chemicals are in the water, what byproducts are in the water. But we can tell you that a study in Canada took up this issue because it seems to be an important issue and found that it was definitely affecting shellfish, and that the temperature is an important problem and needs to be considered because it can affect the life of marine life in especially stiller water areas, like the Belle-Isle Marsh, where all this stuff is going. So I hope that you will think about this. I hope you might take a few minutes to read what I wrote. And our issue is not about the people in the houseboats. Our issue is about protecting the economic vitality of Winthrop. And here we have a planning board that spent hours and hours and hours thinking about how to adjust zoning so that we can encourage more development. You know, I've spent 30 years in development and in real estate development, and I can tell you I've never seen anything more detrimental to investment in a community than the lack of ability to rely on the local enforcement of the rules and regulations in the community. People don't want to spend money in a place where they don't know if there's going to be a trailer park next door or not.
Okay, thank you, Deborah. Any further public? Mr. Cipolletta?
Mr. President, members of the council, James Cipolletta. Winthrop address is 217 Cliff Avenue, and I'm precinct 4. I represent John Dolans, and he's the owner of the Green Turtle. I also represent a number of the other liveaboards and owners of vessels down at Atlantis Marina. They were here tonight because they've been sort of ping-pong between the council and the planning board, attempting to be somewhat, as much as possible, cooperative and involved in the process. Now, we understand that there are multiple issues that span multiple departments, from the building department, the health department, the harbor master. They all have some piece of this pie to deal with. What I don't want to do is argue their case here, because this is not the time. At the time that either the planning board or the council sees fit to have a public hearing on this, I will be glad to come forward and present the case. The issue, and there is a difference between a houseboat, a vessel, a wharf boat. The United States Supreme Court has already decided this case. They decided it in 2013. And because there are different variations of vessels defined by their makeup and their use, the problem is not a one solution solves our entire plethora of issues, either Atlantis or somewhere else. I understand that the town has spoken with outside counsel for the town of Winthrop. I would ask the manager that I go on record as having announced my representation of these individuals, so that if there is going to be some litigation commenced, that they notify me, or prior to litigation being commenced, it may be appropriate to sit down and talk and identify some of the issues. And I think some of these things are very easy to address, but I don't think we can address them sort of shotgun style. I think we need to address them, we need to identify them first. There are some solutions out there that have already been applied in other places. I know there are zoning concerns, health concerns, DEP concerns, Army Corps concerns. All of those people need to be baked into this solution. And it's not going to be easy. But I just want you, Mr. President, and councilors, and Mr. Manager as well, to know we're here to cooperate. And one of the things that has been, and a number of people have said it here this evening, and I used to stand up at town meeting back when, and always say that Winthrop has two things that are really vital assets. First and foremost, it's people. And secondly, it's its waterfront. And I think the town manager and his staff and the professional staff here in Winthrop has taken advantage of that in seeking grants and doing development and targeting areas that need to be developed and bring people into Winthrop, whether it's by ferry, by bicycle, by walking Winthrop, by car, or however, or by boat. But we can't send the message to come on over to Winthrop, and as soon as you do, we're going to kick you in the butt. So I think there needs to be some sort of a happy medium where everybody can be happy, or at least less dissatisfied when we come to the end. So I make that offer to the council and to Mr. McKenna, who I speak with almost every week on some kind of an issue, and we'll be happy to deal with he and the staff. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Cipolletta. Yes, David.
Yes, I'm David Kelston from 550 Pleasant Street. I'm skeptical of what I just heard.
That's precinct 1. We have to identify the precinct.
Precinct 1.
That's 4.
Is that? No.
2.
Pond Street?
We voted
No, they're not.
precinct
Precinct 2.
Oh, it's
Which street?
When I vote, I go to precinct 2.
Yeah.
So far, they've been accepted.
Okay, precinct 2. You're on.
On December 12th, 2013, there was a cease and desist order served on the bed and breakfast. They've totally ignored it since then. They flaunted town authority, they flaunted law. They could have gone to get a special permit, they could have applied for a special permit pursuant to zoning in Winthrop. They've never done that. On December 12th, Town Council said that the special permit issued by the planning board was being violated by the houseboats that weren't bed and breakfast because of the parking matters. The houseboats have continued to be there, the violations have continued. There's been no attempt by the houseboats or the bed and breakfast to comply with the law as it's clearly been announced in Winthrop. So I don't think this is a complicated issue. They're in violation of the law, and the law needs to be enforced. And I agree with everything Ms. Kuhn said about the larger issues. I think houseboats are a real problem. I think they're in violation in general of zoning in Winthrop. But at the Atlantis Marina, they're clearly in violation of the law. And the law needs to be enforced. That's not a complicated matter. It simply isn't.
I'd like to add to that.
Just wait to be recognized. Are you finished, David?
I am.
Yes.
Just a coda to that. From reading around the country, one thing that stands out very clearly is that the argument Mr. Cipolletta just made, that there's a lot of variation in the kinds of boats and there's liveaboards and this and that, is the argument that's made to get everybody all confused. And I will tell you that in 2013, the Supreme Court read the case. And you know that case is very useful. Because you know what it says? It says these things floating that aren't meant for taking people on water for commercial or pleasure uses, they're not vessels. Therefore, they're not, and they can't be enforced under maritime law. You know what that means? They're subject to state and local regulation under the normal zoning and property taxing authorities of state and local government. That's what that case says. And all this balderdash, as my grandmother would say, about a liveaboard versus a houseboat versus a vessel versus a this and that is just so much balderdash. And I hope you won't be fooled by it.
Thank you.
The issue is living in houses on water.
Thank you. No rebut. This isn't a debate.
Could I,
Any further question, any further comment from the public, from the council, Council Mills?
I will say one thing. We're happy to invite people to Winthrop as long as they know it's not the Wild West. And this has been the Wild West since distinguished counsel, as you were sitting here, walked in and told us we were the recipients of a DEP order. Excuse me, let me just finish. You were not here.
That's it.
I stayed out of that house.
Mr. Cipolletta and Mr. Mail, there will be no cross-communication. There will be no stabs back and forth.
I did not
If you want-
state that you were the counsel. I said you were sitting
Mr.
here.
Councilman Mail, if you have something that you want to direct in a general nature, that's fine.
It is-
Mr.
it
Cipolletta, you've
is-
had your talk, and it won't be a debate back and forth.
There was no need for a debate. It was the fact of what I said was simply that he was a spectator that evening when they came in, and that's when it started. You were not representing them.
Okay, end of conversation. Is there any further discussion on the
The
public
discussion
comment?
point that I have is the fact that
Mr.
it
Mayo,
has turned.
the public comment period, that public comment is done. Is there any further public comment? From the council or from the public? Thank you. Moving on. Town manager's report.
Yes, good evening. We are engaging with the planning board on a number of levels. One is that we are in receipt now of their recommendation and report on commercial business district zoning amendments, which we would like to have forwarded to the Rules and Ordinances Committee for their imprimatur and hopefully scheduling a July 1st public hearing on the matter in joint session with the planning board. We will advertise as such, but we would ask that the council forward those zoning recommendations that we've now delivered to the council to the Rules and Ordinances Committee for referral, please. And really, that sort of now brings to the, to the public a long process where we invited MAPC under a grant to aid us in the drafting of fairly significant amendments to our zoning to encourage creative use and commercial development in areas where that's been identified as in need of certainly new investment and new creative development. And so we're very happy about the fact that the planning board did its due diligence and at length, analyzed these issues and now has recommended their adoption.
Can I just say something about it?
I skipped over committee reports, is that what you're going to say?
No,
I did, okay, go ahead.
We're going to be happy to look at this and to do it, and we've already discussed amongst the planning, the rules committee, that we are going to meet Thursday, the 26th, in a room you're going to get us at 7 p.m., and we hope the planning board is there. But you've given us a package that's about 30 pages long. I can't guarantee you that we're going to get through all of this on that one evening to do it by the 1st. I mean, we're going to meet on the 26th, and we'll diligently try to do that and everything. I just don't know if it's possible to get this in and coordinated with the bylaws that we already have existing in one meeting.
Council President?
Do what you can do. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. We certainly, the planning board took months with this. We don't expect that, or certainly, miracles can happen, but, certainly, whatever time it takes, the necessary analysis and consideration.
We would love to have it done by July 1st, but we understand if it can't be, it can't be.
Okay, all right. Good. As long as that's
Council President, he doesn't realize it was 60 pages originally, so they're kind of...
And the public hearing advertisement can be continued.
Yes.
Okay, so...
Oh, we can still have the public hearing.
And then continue it.
But it doesn't even have to be continued.
It doesn't have to be if you feel complete, but if there are amendments still to be considered, those can be added, as further along. Shall I continue?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Jumped to me, okay. And also, Thursday night is our public hearing, a community meeting is more correct, just a label for it. The proposed economic development plan that's been in the works with the assistance of the Collins Center at the University of Massachusetts, Boston. We've got a task force composing a number of key individuals of the community, as well as council members and planning board members and others who've been involved in this. And we're very excited that this also is coming forward and perhaps another way to influence the thought process and deliberations with respect to zoning, and also just encouraging creative thinking of a broad perspective as far as the economic development strategies for the council to consider going forward. I think Russ Sanford might have more comment on that.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of background. Anybody had the opportunity to see the Sunday Globe on June 8th, the headline was, "Winthrop maintains a small town feel," and I think that spoke a lot about what's happening here in town. They talk about beaches, shops, ferries, restaurants, the closeness of the community, the history, and more importantly about its future, and I think that's what we all get excited about here. There were pros and cons, but there were many more pros than there were cons to being proud of Winthrop and the town of Winthrop. As Council Mayles stated in the past, we do have a self-esteem problem. I think a lot of what has happened to Winthrop is sometimes created by what we see from the inside looking out, not what the outside's looking in is. The town has partnered with the Collins Center at UMass Boston and working on a strategic plan, as you spoke about, town manager, and focusing on economic development. They're hosting a forum Thursday, June 19th, this Thursday from 7 to 9 at the Cummings Multipurpose Room. They're gathering ideas and input that will be incorporated into an economic strategy plan. This has been ongoing for probably 4 to 6 months, I'd say, maybe even a little longer. Everyone is invited. We encourage businesses, so on and so forth, individuals who have an insight of what they'd like to see happen in Winthrop to come and talk about their ideas. This is a multi-pronged approach, which is spearheaded through the town manager's office and the council, working along with the planning board as we talked about some of the new changes that are being proposed as we go forward, the licensing board, Chamber of Commerce, and investors to make some of the changes that we need to make to help Winthrop to grow economically and in a responsible way as we start to develop and move forward. So I'm excited about it. We invite everybody Thursday night to Cummings multi-purpose room, 7 o'clock to 9:30.
I would add, if I can, Council President, that there are a number of documents that have been promulgated as a result of the committee's work, and you can find those on our website. If you go to the town's website and click on News and Announcements, you'll be able to see those documents linked, and you can print them out, or they're available in my office as well if you want to come up and get a copy of those documents. But they're important to read before the meeting. One is a very extensive historical overview of the economics of Winthrop, which I don't think has ever been done before, frankly. That really, I think, puts a broad, exposure to how Winthrop has developed over the years and where we find ourselves today and why we find ourselves where we find ourselves today. And then what we can do to promote in the context of industry and proximity to Boston and proximity to other amenities and transportation options and things of that nature. How we can best position Winthrop in a competitive advantage type of strategy to optimize its assets, as people spoke about tonight, as well as defining how you envision your community, where you see it and where you want to take it, and what it's what are the inhibitors to achieving that, and how can we break down those inhibitors and promote the town in a way that will be conscious of its small town quality, at the same time enable and encourage small business to be generated and successful in the community. So there's a lot to be talked about. I think the 2 hours are probably, people will still have things to say. I don't think that we'll be done that night talking about it, frankly. But I'm completely enthusiastic about the role that the committee's played, and UMass Boston has clearly taken a very, very strong interest in what they've delivered to the community. And I hope you read these documents and be prepared to discuss them thoroughly on Thursday night.
Jim, I want to thank you and Russ as chairman of Economic Development to get this thing going, and appreciate your efforts, and we know it's going to be fruitful, and it's not going to be something that winds up on the top shelf collecting dust. Comment?
Yeah, you should thank Joe D. for
Joe.
working on the show there. And, the one thing that I was impressed with as I was going through the stuff there is that it entails everything, bus routes, arts, programming, beaches, and it really talked about some wide-ranging discussions on where the town wants to go. And I guess it's not lecture style when you go in there. I think it's going to be a series of tables that are set up, and individuals that were on the committee are going to be behind the tables and talk about the specific subjects, because even if you were there, you didn't get to sit in on all the meetings. There were a group of breakout rooms there, so you may have gone to every meeting and got only half of the information. So I hope there's a great group of people that come out. We'd like to get over 100 people, and I'll tell you, in the long run, we had 250 people come out for the MWRA and for the casino. But this is just as important because it's not something that's happening to us, it's something we can make happen for us. And I think that that's a good approach. So I hope people take a little while, and I know all you guys will be there because it's party, you'll be there. So, I think it's a good idea, so.
Yes.
Is it going to be televised by WCAT? That would be something to have.
I don't-
People that can't be there, that they would like to see what's going on.
I don't know if it's going to be what kind of format.
Mike, could you check and see if it's possible?
See if I can find something.
Thursday night at 7? Thank you.
6:30.
Where is that on the website again?
6:30.
6:30, sorry.
Hopefully they're there.
I don't see. Oh, you know something?
Just
It's
to
probably on
continue,
the
Council
north.
President?
Yes, please.
I would like to acknowledge the Speaker DeLeo, for 3 items that this week were certainly will prove, if we pursue them, to be very beneficial for the community. One is inserting into the environmental bond bill $3 million for improving the drainage and dredging at Lewis Lake and the drainage area along Veterans Road. We are now in a study with seeking an RFP for qualifications of engineering expertise on this, and we will certainly endeavor to move that project forward. It's clearly an environmental and public health challenge for this community, a significant challenge, and we need to address it as one of our top priorities. And so we're thankful for the Speaker to have done funding for it. I'd like to acknowledge him as well for the $625,000 in the same environmental bill for improving the coastline around Coughlin Park. If you're familiar with the degradation and erosion that's happened along the edge of Coughlin Park, here we are this summer taking on a very, very substantial renovation of the entire park. And we've come to realize that if the edging is not protected, much of that investment is at risk, and we certainly don't want to see that park at risk. So the Speaker saw clear to have 625 allocated for us for that, and so we'll move forward with that as well. You know, it's one thing to get money in a bond bill, it's another thing to actually get access to the funds. It requires sometimes environmental investment on this, engineering investment on the part of the town. So we may be seeking some support dollars to get the engineering design completed so that we can access these funds. And then the Speaker informed me by telephone that he has secured a $50,000 subsidy for ferry service for this season. Now I have to try to,
Very nice.
I have to try to deploy it. And that's my challenge. I've been in conversations with Boston Harbor Cruises. They're looking to see how they might be able to assist us. There's no guarantee there. So I need to explore other options as well for any vessel in the region that can come in and assist us, at least for the months of July and August. So I'm working on it. I have 3 quick reports from 3 staff members, but I just want to inform the council that I will be attending an executive management seminar for state and local government officials at the Harvard's Kennedy School in July. And as such, I will have Tim Gordon and Chief Delahanty platooning some of my duties during those 3 weeks. But I will be available by phone and by email. But it's a great opportunity for me to get some training. It's about time in my career that I do this. I'm honored that they picked me to be in the seminar, and hopefully I'll come back with a lot of great ideas. Don't know if they'll be able to compete with Councilor Mail's ideas, but nonetheless, a few more ideas.
I will be lecturing there.
I know you're a lecturer. Looking forward to the class. So that's what I'll be doing for the most part in July. So I thank, in anticipation, Chief and CFO Gordon for assisting me in those roles.
When you were describing your schedule today, I just want everybody to know this is not a vacation nor a walk in the park. Oof,
No.
it's a real intense program. We appreciate you going.
Yeah. Thank you.
Where is it, Miami?
Yeah.
It's only over there. So I'd like to have Chief Delahanty give us a quick update on delinquent properties and what we've been doing lately.
So again, much to the effort of the council and the town manager and the building department, we've been working diligently as a team with the fire department, DPW, building, and health to try to bring some of these properties that have been numerous complaints in my office and Jim's office under control. We've made great headway in the last 4 weeks under the receivership program. we have taken into receivership one house. We have 3 more going into receivership. We have one that's actually going to be a private sale. And some of these houses are in deplorable conditions in these neighborhoods, bringing down the value to the neighbors. And it's also creating a public safety hazard to the people who are residing in these houses. There's no running bathrooms. There's no kitchens. The kitchens have either been taken out or the water's been shut off, disposal, so that it's really squalid conditions. And some of these houses have been abandoned. And you know, 2 of those houses are abandoned as well. So again, to the building department, Al McGee's leadership, in cooperation with the managers, and funding from you guys for Brown and D'Ambrosio Brown to lead the way and to try to bring these neighborhoods up and lift up. I think it's a wonderful program. We've again made a lot of headway. We continue to move on that. So if you have to answer any questions, but that's my request.
I am blessed with a great team.
Can you email us a list of those places?
I can, yes. Again, where it's litigation, we'd ask them to the executive sessions until the litigation's over. I can certainly send it to you.
That's a great effort, and it's going to be a real positive thing, and I credit the inspection law, and I credit our inspection people that are out there doing it. Councilor Mail?
Yeah, I was going to say, were there people involved in these properties, or were these the abandoned delinquent ones?
There was, one person was involved.
So
we provide, we work with the service providers in the area. That particular person was brought into the services of a nursing home. She's being cared for and provided. The good thing about receiverships is it's not government taking your property. It's government utilizing legal mechanisms to increase the value of your property, sell your property. The receiver has to lay out the money, so government and the taxpayers are not laying out any cash. The receiver has to lay out the cash. Anything above what the receiver is owed, and the sale has to be approved by Superior Court, goes back to the owner after we get our back taxes. So the owner actually gets any of the overages on what the receiver put in and what's owed to the town and back taxes. So it's a good program, and it helps a lot of these people that are in these conditions. Either they have, you know, a mental illness, or they just become so frail that they can't take care of themselves, and there's no one around to help them. This is our opportunity to protect the neighborhood, protect their neighbors, and also care for them.
So as we move forward and we go down the line, you know, you're in the worst properties. As you move forward, are we going to be reaching to places where there are more people that put a demand on
Well,
this?
again, because of the housing inspection ordinance, we hope that when we get the backlog cleared, that the inspection ordinances will help us from getting into these types of situations to begin with.
But we may have people to deal with come moving forward.
We may, you know, 2 out of the next, well, I'm going to take the private sale out of the 5, you know, one's already in receivership, and that person's being cared for. 2 are vacant.
Okay, no people.
So that's what we're facing right now. Imminently, there is one that is occupied, in which we feel that, you know, we would have to address that person as well, which might need a lot of services and intervention. It's gotten that bad in that particular neighborhood.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions from the council for the chief of police?
I'd like to ask Director Calla for a quick report on DPW activity.
Sure. I first want to report that the contract for engineering, which is the Cottage Hill area and the Francis Pico Sunnyside area, it's near 50% completion on the engineering. We as a council, we have to start thinking about the bonding authorization. The next step in the engineering, when it gets to 75%, is to put in an MWRA application for the water loan. Chief Flanagan has been very successful bringing a request of mine to the board of directors of MWRA. This year, our allotment would have been $985,000. He was able to expedite the distribution process, so MWRA agreed that they would give us all our remaining funds this year with the full MWRA loan application. That's $2.2 million available this year as opposed to $985,000. I do want to remind you that we still have the exposed main on our Francis Beach really don't want to go through another winter with it sitting on the sand out there. Really hoping that we improve the bonding authorization so we can start the construction of this project this year. Fisherman's Bend is a project that we've been working on through a grant that's nearing completion. It's a trail system that links Sunnyside Avenue to Winthrop Street. It's part of the Walk Winthrop plan of the town managers that he had presented a while back. Welcome anybody to get down there and take a look. We got 2 distinguished trailheads at this point. We have some benches going in. We're waiting on signage from Holding Sign. And we still have some top dressing of the trails with stone dust to kind of delineate that a little bit more. But anybody who's familiar with the area, you'll see a significant change down there. It's beautiful. You should definitely walk through it. The manager touched on Coughlin Playground. Our intent there is to start removing equipment after the 4th of July festivities. This grant, this $250,000 that we have to take care of this project has to be expended by December 31st of this year. So it's a fast time frame. This project is about 4 times the size of any park project we've done to date. And each one of those projects is taking just over 10 months of construction. So we really got to get ourselves going. We're probably going to have to bid out a portion of it to keep us on schedule. But we will get it done. We'll get the project done by December 31st. Washington Avenue from Elmwood Court down to Delby's Corner. That project will also be starting the end of this month. That'll be full road restoration from Elmwood Court down to Delby's Corner. The installation of 2 new crosswalks to link the trails from Lewis Lake to the new Harbor Walk and back at Delby's Corner. And there'll be substantial sidewalk renovations there as well. Last thing I want to touch on is the bid opening for the 2014 sidewalk contract happens next Wednesday. We'll try to get that paperwork signed, contract signed as soon as we award it, as quickly as possible so we can get that work started. We're looking at about 1,100 square yards of sidewalk this year for that project. Supplemented it slightly with Chapter 90 money. That's almost 30% more sidewalk than we were able to do with last year's contract.
That's wonderful.
As always, Steve, great job. Appreciate all your efforts and accomplishments.
Steve, you've got a million projects going, you're doing a great job.
Amen.
And everything's going. Just want to ask one simple question. If we can get it done, I don't know if we can get MWRA to help. With Shore Drive being worked on and busy, we're getting a ton more people going to Euro Beach. Euro Beach is packed. Is there a possibility of getting that right before the 4th of July?
We had been on there this year. Our surf rate, actually, the surf rate that dumped into the loader, one of the pistons went on us and it went sideways. I got to bring it to a welder. They're trying to straighten it out. I'm hoping I can get it back before the 4th of July. If not, I've arranged with our bird spotter, who we need to use through the month of July. I got 3 dates scheduled with her to spot us, and we'll go out there with the loader, and it'll be more of a manual effort, but we will get out there.
Thank you, Steve. I'd like to ask CFO Tim Gordon to give us a quick update on the year-end closing process and where we are.
So not a whole lot to report. I have put in the Dropbox the financial report through the end of May. Revenues are strong on all fronts right now, so that's good news. And we're just working on bringing the year into a smooth close on the expenditure side. So far, so good. And then finally, just the agreement that was discussed last week regarding municipal expenditures incurred on behalf of the schools. That will be on the agenda for Monday's school committee meeting. So I'm hoping that we'll get on the school committee, and then we'll get the town manager and the superintendent to sign off on it.
Any questions?
Yes, Council. Tim, the only question I have is probably a year-end thing. The cherry sheet number is like a $500,000 under. Are we getting like another check?
Yes, we will be. So prior years, the state would reimburse on a quarterly basis. Now they're reimbursing on a monthly basis. So yeah, if you look at that, it looks like we're down compared to last year, but it really has to do.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to put myself at ease. Thank you.
Any further questions from the council? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, just Jim, because I had mentioned this, I think I sent you an email as well, about your reach again, where it's packed. There was a problem there 2 Sundays ago, where a woman lost her 4-year-old child, and she thought he was in the water. Of course, thank God he wasn't, and they found the child. But like, citizens were walking in the water hand in hand across the beach, all the way up to their necks, and making sure that this child wasn't in the water. And I think it's very important that we get a lifeguard down there this summer. I know MWRA is giving us some help, sending us some kids to work with Parks and Rec. Hopefully, we can also get a lifeguard that's going to be down there during at least the weekends, during the summer, if not full-time.
I had a recent update from Sean Driscoll with regard to use of Massport funds. He, regrettably, Massport has not given us the allotment that we asked for. However, he's looking to see if we can deploy some of those funds towards lifeguard services for the summer. So, you know, he assures me that you know, he's looking to see if there are any candidates who have the credentials, frankly, who have the skills set to be able to do and perform adequate, you know, services as lifeguards. I'll try to reach out to him again and get a report to you, Counselor, on whether we can get someone down there.
It's really important.
Yeah.
Yes,
Are
Council.
there any programs, you know, available for, say, you know, high school kids, college kids, or, you know, that want to get certified as
For the
a lifeguard?
YMCA, I believe that there are some training programs for that.
Takes a few months.
We just need to, we need to explore who has the training at this point and see if they're available.
Maybe we could do that for next year, at least get, you know, some
I
kids.
think it's important, even if we have to take an appropriation, move some money out of our fund.
Okay.
Sounds good. Any further questions for the manager? If not, I had inadvertently skipped over committee reports. DPW Council, Mayor, you still have those items on the agenda, correct?
Yeah, but I was waiting for 50% on the, I was waiting to have our meeting because we have this issue to go over now that he's at 50% for the project. What do you call it? Contract 4?
Contract 4.
Oh, okay,
So now
we'll
we're...
just leave those other
Yeah,
items.
well, no,
that you have.
we're just going to schedule up a meeting now for next week.
Council Boncour, you were on hold with that?
We are set for,
Whichever
they
day.
said next Thursday evening, we'll be meeting at 7 p.m.
Thursday the 26th?
Thursday the 26th.
Can you get a hold of Peter Roach and ask him to be there?
I will.
He and David Stacio, they're pretty much steering that boat.
Okay.
Great, thank you. And you don't know where you're going to be yet?
No, as soon as.
Not here. There's already one here at 7. So probably evening.
That's not on the website, Jim.
All right, so under old business, we're gonna skip over the limousine policy, because that's one that you're working on, and then we have a motion by the town manager. A motion, we move that the council transfer $125,000 from Fund 932 Stabilization Fund to a special article for the payment of legal fees in conjunction with legal judgment, or take any other action relative thereto. Do we have a motion? Motion by Council Sanford, seconded by? Seconded by Vice President Del Vento. Is there any discussion on the motion?
What's the motion?
I think we need to 125. Just do the disclaimer that we're okay to vote this tonight.
Yep.
Because of previous advertising, previous hearings, it's not coming up for vote.
Thank you for that explanation as chairman of the Finance Committee. Is there any further discussion? Council?
Also, is this money that will be reimbursed to the town?
Yes, of the 125,000, 96,000 approximately will be reimbursed and go back into that stabilization fund, correct? Is there any further comment? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. senior work program, town nighttime. Those next three are all still on hold, as is the host boat rules and regulations. Postponed from the last meeting, we had request of the Board of License that the town move and accept MGL 138, Section 33B, as most recently amended, authorizing liquor authorities to sell alcoholic beverages at 10 a.m. on Sunday. Let me read that whole thing again. Motion. At the request of the Winter Board of License Commission, I move that the town council accept and activate MGL Chapter 138, Section 33B, as most recently amended, authorizing local liquor licensing authorities to permit MGL Chapter 138, Section 12 licensees or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a second for the motion? It was made and seconded and then postponed, so the motion is still on the floor. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Just a caveat that it be amended, and there'd be an amendment that if this passes, it be referred to rules and orders to change our bylaws that are already in existence.
Okay, so you want to make that as a form of amendment?
As an amendment, yeah.
Okay. Amended by Council Boncory, that it be referred to rules, if it passes, be referred to rules and ordinances to make the necessary change.
In our bylaws.
You get that, Denise?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. Is there any discussion on the amendment?
Just the general discussion, is there some law or something at the State House that I read that was going to affect the way we handle local liquor licenses?
Yeah, could possibly be more, it'll be local control, but that
Will that
doesn't...
affect this?
No.
Yeah.
On the amendment, yes, Council.
I was gonna add to the, I'll talk to Councilor Neal after about that.
Okay, on the amendment that if this passes, it'll be sent to rules and ordinances to correct the, to update the rules and ordinances, the rules accordingly. Any discussion on the amendment? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Back to the main motion as amended. Is there any discussion on the main motion as amended? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
It's everybody but Council. Council Boncory, on the motion that you had on the middle school, high school project employee, did we decide that we're going to withdraw that at this point?
We had withdrawn that motion because they were going to do due diligence to hire as many people from Winter as they could.
I didn't know if it had actually been withdrawn. So
Yes,
okay.
it had been withdrawn, and I believe they have, I'd like to know what the discussion was, because I got a rumor back to me that there was a meeting at the school building assistance committee, and it was said that my motion was stopping the building from going forward.
No.
That didn't come back to me like by two people. So the motion had been withdrawn last time so that we could go on with due diligence.
SBAC was all clear with it. I just wanted to make it official that it had been withdrawn. Okay. Okay, on the transfer of $5,000 to a special article, Miller Field. Is there a motion on that, Mr. McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. I'll read it for you.
Yeah, please do. I don't have it in front of me for some reason.
I move the motion that I move the town council transfer from town council reserve 0111-052-57611, I mean 100, the amount of $5,000 to a special article for the purpose of engineering design services for Miller Field to take any other action relative thereto.
Do we have a second? Motion by Council Devanto, seconded by Council Callan. Is there any discussion on the motion? Yes, Council Mayor.
What are we putting up $5,000 to look into whether or not we want to spend $3 million on it?
Yes, actually.
Exactly.
It's, no, what's important is to know, if I may.
You got to
conversation here at a time, gentlemen, please.
We need to have a baseline map and plan drawn up by an engineering firm for the field. We can't just solicit funds from certain corners of the world without a plan and a scope of work written up that says we know what we're doing and we know what we're going to do with the funds. And so it's a level of confidence that needs to be extended, not just a wish and an ask, but a plan that says, this is what needs to get done to improve that field. And it's substantiated by, the signature of a designer, someone who has said yes, and affirmatively, that this is what needs to be done. So we need to ask for that.
So, does it have to be paid for out of the council reserve? Could it be repaid for out of rent from Plaisted Park funds, or?
No.
Oh, sorry I brought it up.
Why?
Okay, Councilor Delvento, did you have another comment on that?
Yeah, I just want to make an amendment to it that the council finance committee be relieved of its obligation to hold a separate hearing and that action be moved forward.
Motion by Councilor Delvento that the council finance committee be relieved from duty and we move this forward. Is there a second for that? Second by Councilor Lettieri. Any discussion? All those in
It's
favor?
basically we're waiting for the rule.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't like to do that.
Can I ask another crazy question before we vote?
Sure.
Did anybody think about asking our friends across the street if they want to chip in on this since they use the field, or is that out of whack with reality?
I think that there were some assurances made at the last council meeting suggesting that if they have an ask of certain funds available, that they would ask for them. And I think this came as a consequence of that.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion to allow the council finance committee to waive the rule that this goes to finance committee? All those in favor of waiving that rule, say aye. Opposed?
No.
7-1, guess who? Council Bungor. We'll reread the motion that the town council transfer from council reserve 0111052-576100, the amount of $5,000 to a special article for the purposes of engineering design services for Miller Field. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
No,
It's not unanimous, 7-1 against.
no, this one caught me by surprise. I haven't had a chance to
Well,
think, sorry.
talk about getting caught by surprise. How about the television on the wall last week?
That was necessary. I'll tell you something, we could have even used it tonight to look at what's going on, how many people know where Fisherman's Bend is?
I do, I walk.
I understand that, but, those are the types of things we could be doing. We could have this.
up there where the poles are.
I showed you.
That would have been good to do.
Could have used the prerogative.
Okay, motion by Mr. McKenna. I move that the town council vote to allow National Grid to install a new pole, number 302 on Shirley Street. Install 2 to 5-inch conduits encased in concrete to pole 302, manhole 167, in order to refeed the transformer and manhole from riser pole instead of faulty underground switches. Take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion?
Motion for discussion. A motion for discussion.
This is the one in
We're
front
going
of
to make an
Brothers.
amendment to the motion.
We're gonna make an
This is the
amendment.
one in front of
Brothers.
Brothers.
We're gonna make an amendment, but we want a motion to get it on before the amendment.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Motion by Council Lettieri, seconded by Council Vice President Del Vento. You wanna make that?
I'll refer to Steve on the amendment.
I just don't know the proper procedure on how to add to it. I just want to make sure that we wait to get a response from them as to whether or not it's feasible to continue underground to the next pole and not have to put that pole in. Which I believe is feasible. They want to reduce the sidewalk work. So,
Question.
The amendment, I would suggest that it would be contingent upon satisfactory response of the location of the second pole.
to the need for the second pole.
Need for the second pole.
I don't believe that there's a need for the second pole. They just don't want to continue as far on the sidewalk as I want them to.
All right, so contingent upon a satisfactory response to the DPW director
As to the need of the second pole.
as to the need of a second pole. You got that, Denny? Also, as in there, that they will restore, that all work will be on the sidewalk. and
All affected sidewalk gets full restoration.
Okay. All set, Denise? So the amendment is, as we just stated, is there any discussion on the amendment? Council?
Discussion on the whole subject, actually. Do we absolutely need to approve this tonight?
Don't need to, no.
Because until they come back with an answer, I would like to exercise my prerogative to put it off.
I think my only suggestion would be that if we passed it contingent upon his approval, that he can then put it into play. If he doesn't approve it, it's dead.
Right, but
Let's just,
What were you going to say?
I agree with Paul, because then once they start the work and they say, oh, I'm sorry, we can't do it. This way here, they're not gonna be able to really start the work unless we know we're satisfied with the way.
well, this amendment
Right?
puts the satisfaction to Steve.
They have not started the work yet.
No, I said, this prevents them from
Can I just shed a
starting.
little light on it? The big reason they want to put in a second pole, under the electrical code, whatever the ampacity is for any conductors going into conduit, they have to be sized appropriately. You know, as you see, you can put a 400 amp service up the side of your restaurant with copper wires this big, and they come off the pole and hit it with some number 6s that cost, 15 cents a foot, compared to your $8 a foot in the wire you had to run up the side of your store or your home. The reason to put a second pole in is because they can run that cheap aluminum on the overhead like they do, and then all they have to do is run underground a much shorter distance. So the big thing is cost, and no matter how they look at it, so, the council, we were just against the second pole and then have no choice. But just in case they come back to you, we can't do it. It's because they don't want to, as soon as they leave the overhead and get on the side of that pole and go underground, they might be running 3-aught, 4-aught copper at, $4, $5, $6, $7 a foot times 4 conductors, compared to, just stretching a quick piece on the overhead, throwing another pole that we look at. We're stuck with what we have on overhead in the town. We shouldn't allow them to put any more.
Steve, would you want us to postpone this until you get satisfactory results?
Paul made the motion.
I withdraw my motion. I'm withdrawing my motion, the original.
I do want to exercise my authority.
Councilor Lettieri has withdrawn his, and Councilor Varun has exercised his authority. Great, okay, very good. How about the one at Crest Ave, and do you have any problems with the one at Crest Ave?
I don't have any objections to Crest Ave. They're not proposing a pole. They did agree to keep everything on the sidewalk.
Okay, and do we want to put that in there? That it's contingent upon them keeping everything on the sidewalk and restoring the sidewalk?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Also, Chief, do you want contingent upon your approval of when they do it?
Yes, because Crest Ave, if they occupy that lane or more than that lane, it's going to create a problem. So if they could communicate with the police as far as when they're going to do it.
Okay, work time approved by the Chief of Police, and all work to remain on the sidewalk with total restoration.
That's correct.
That's 2 contingencies, you got those, Denise? Can you communicate those?
Like that motion. Voting on it?
Oh, yeah, let's make it. The amendment is that it's contingent upon all of the work staying on the sidewalk and the sidewalks being totally restored, and contingent upon the work time being approved by the Chief of Police. Time on the amendment. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. The main motion is amended. Any
How
discussion?
quickly? Not even
Not all
close.
those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Jumping right on is, jumping right on. So get out of here.
On the zoning board, although it's not on the agenda, the Center Business District zoning bylaw changes that we discussed earlier, and Council Corey has agreed to that we could put that into the public, into rules and ordinances. Could I have a motion to refer that to rules and ordinances?
Motion.
Motion by
Council Callan?
Councilor Callis, seconded by Councilor Sanford. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Also, I want to make a motion that we have a public hearing on July 1st regarding this, and even if Council Boncory's committee hasn't finished it, we can still have a public hearing. All those in favor of public hearing on July 1st at the regular council meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. It's not July 1st. Appointments, committee appointments. Council on Aging, they're all reappointments. Alice Haskell, Elizabeth Vasquez, Jim Fratty, Judy Van Coyman. all to expire on June 30, 2017. Obviously, they're three-year appointments.
Motion to accept.
Motion to confirm by Councilor Corey, seconded by Councilor Lettieri. Any discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Planning Board reappointment, Vinnie Zapula, again to June 30th, 2017. Motion to confirm. Second by Councilor Corey, seconded by Councilor Del Vento. Any discussion on the motion? Not all those in favor say aye. Opposed? It's unanimous.
With President,
Yeah.
while we're still in business, we had houseboat rules and regulations under it, and we had sent it to the planning.
Right,
board.
that's
Now,
coming up.
It came up, they were sending it back to us?
And just the question of enforcement. Just the
Okay.
question of enforcement, of the
Enforcement.
existing cease and desist. Yeah.
But it is gonna stay with them to
Yes.
draft some kind of regulation. Oh.
Yes.
I'm trying to figure it out.
And in the meantime, we're gonna find out if we can even have them. Because so instead of drawing regulations for something we can't have anyway.
Could you restate what you just said? We're going to decide if we can have them?
The
Question of
Kopelman and Page is looking at the question again as to whether or not we have a right to have them.
whether we need to enforce an order to require, in order for us to file in court, we have to have an actual action made by the Inspection Services Department that can be appealed to court, okay?
Right.
We have that in the instance of the Green Turtle, for example, serving as a bed and breakfast. Okay.
Correct.
They were also a houseboat.
Right.
Okay. So the question then we're also going to be asking the court is this question of whether or not, there is the jurisdiction of the town applies to these issues of houseboats.
Right.
And whether they have to come to the town and get a special permit or variance from zoning board of appeals in order to exist at all on the water sheet within the jurisdiction of the town.
So the way I understand this is that we're saying you shouldn't be here because we don't have a rule. Now you're going to court to say if we need the rule.
No. We're insisting on an enforcement of a cease and desist order.
For the bed and breakfast.
Which will raise equitable remedy. Which will be potentially an injunction against these folks, okay?
Yeah.
I assume that, they will be there, represented by counsel, and that counsel will, raise issues whether they can exist there or not, okay? So we're preparing to be able to speak on all levels of the issue.
Right. But if it happened that if we could not enforce that injunction, then we would need a set of rules to at least deal with them about all the other issues. So we don't have any rules to deal with them at all.
No, we don't. And so the question is, does our zoning, because it's silent on the question of houseboats being allowed,
Right.
does that mean that they're not allowed by default?
Correct.
Unless and until we come up with a design of some jurisdictional zoning that applies for that use to exist.
So I just want to make sure the planning board knows from our perspective that we want them to keep, at least I would like them to keep moving forward. And whatever your legal issue is, that we at least have some set of rules. So in the future, it's settled. We have, settled what we're going to do. We're either going to have it, we're not going to have it, because we could enforce a rule and still come up with some rules which allowed for, habitation if we wanted to handle it that way.
And the court may say, we're going to allow you to exist in a sort of a gray area until and when the town comes up with some framework on allowing you to exist.
Legally, I don't know how we can tell someone to cease and desist from doing something that we don't have a regulation to say they can't do. I just don't see how we can do that.
Well, but you can make,
One at a time, please. Hold on. Councilman Corey.
We have a breakfast regulation, but we don't have a household regulation.
No.
And I don't know if they even comply with our bed and breakfast regulation because it's specific to
May I
land.
respond to that, Council
Yes.
President? That's why we have variances. That's why we go to the zoning board of appeals and they issue on a case-by-case basis a use that doesn't necessarily comply with the four corners of all the rights and privileges under a zoning. So they can apply through through a permitting process. Whether they would be successful or not is anyone's guess, through our local zoning. But there is a relief valve, and it's called a variance. They can supply and seek a use variance for their existence there.
Through the Board of Appeals.
Through the Board of Appeals.
Any other comments?
Well, I was just going to say, I understand your point, but the absolute reverse is the case. The fact that it doesn't say you can't do it doesn't mean you necessarily can. There is not a rule and regulation for every element of a day-to-day existence.
Phil?
And my concern is, legally, is how do you get a variance to something that doesn't exist? I mean, we have rules saying you can't be this high, and you can't be this wide, you can't, and if you're gonna build, you can get a variance to that. But how do you get a variance to something we haven't even laid out? I don't think.
And that's why I want to continue
We need to
on the
lay
process.
something out,
All right.
whether it's
As long as we're
zoning
comfortable
doing it
on
or us,
that.
but we need to get it done.
Okay, very good, thank you. Any further new business?
Can I
Counsel.
ask a question to the chief Flanagan? The MWRA brought all those trucks in, how did that go? Were there any issues or any complaints or?
No,
From the
it
Point
went
Shirley
rather
residents?
well. I think we shortened the runs by 2 days, so they were done on Friday around 1:30 in the afternoon. There was no incidences, it was all controlled, the traffic was controlled, the speed was controlled, so I
That's good.
haven't heard of any complaints from the residents down there.
Good, thank you.
Any further from the council? If not, just a couple of reminder dates, the groundbreaking at Winthrop High, June 24th. Economic Development meeting we already mentioned. Viking Pride's closeout on June 28th, the final function at the old high school. And Council Del Vento wants to keep reminding people that parking stickers expire on June 30th.
One
Yes.
of these days, he'll get up there and get his.
Who?
One of these days, he'll even remember.
Oh, good. Council.
Just a point of information, Winthrop Fireworks Committee is raising funds for the fireworks.
Right there.
The chief is right over there. Just want to make mention that all contributions can go to the Winthrop Fireworks Fund, 40 Pauline Street. And Chief, anything we should add to that?
No, they've been coming in, we always, a lot of people wait till the last minute. Nobody in particular, but, so.
Did you get mine yet?
There's a lot of $10 or $20 donations, and they go a long way in making it work. So, but the people have been very generous, thanks.
All right, it was kind of a fun weekend. We had the third annual Winthrop Safe Boating Day with the Coast Guard coming down to the landing. And Mr. Seifert was the honorary commodore for the day. It was fun.
I heard a lot of noise coming from
You did? What kind of noise?
horns and,
Good noise.
it was good.
Our police chief and police force with the Special Olympics down at Miller Field, always a good time. The food was great, the hamburgers were hot. My wife didn't have to cook supper. Pancake breakfast, great, Father's Day. The farmer's market, first day of the farmer's market was Sunday. Given that it was Father's Day and that it was the first day, it was a good showing down there. And people were very, very happy that people were there. Except I had one person who thought they should have ice cream. Other than that,
Yeah,
no
it was a nice day.
And just still off the cuff, but tonight on the news, there was a story about a doctor traveling down Boardman Street in East Boston, saw a car pulled over to the side of the road, pulled over, and the man was having a severe heart attack. The man was from Winthrop. The doctor saved him, saved his life with CPR. And then the guy tried to chase down to find out who the doctor was. And all he could find out was that he was an ER doctor at Mount Auburn Hospital. Further chasing, he found out that the Mount Auburn doctor, the ER doctor, also lived in Winthrop. And his name is Matt Murphy. And his
Right.
wife tonight, Heather, was here speaking
Mike.
about
Oh, that was
Casino.
Matt Murphy?
Matt Murphy.
Mike.
Mike Murphy. And it was a great story. And it took him a while to chase him down because nobody wanted to give the information who he was. But it was a good story. I just have one other thing. July meeting scheduled, the second Tuesday in July, I'm going to be away. So I'd like to suggest that we have a meeting on the 1st and the 22nd instead of the 1st and the 15th. Anybody have an issue with that? have to waive the rules to do it, Mr. Rocco.
Yes, we do.
Motion to waive the rules to have the July meetings, July 1st and 22nd?
22nd,
Yeah, I might not be at the 22nd, just so that you know that.
And I'm arriving back on the 1st from a vacation, so I should be here, but if there's any delays with
Okay.
Logan, I may not.
Second.
Motion by Councilor DeVento, second by Councilor Lettieri. Any discussion on that? To waive the rules, to have the July meetings on the 1st and the 22nd as opposed to the 1st and the 15th. Not all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
Public comment.
Public comment. Seeing none, we will continue our executive session from which we will come out and for adjournment only. So everybody's free to leave except the council.
You know, Vice President could have run a meeting.